Don't help elect Trump, you egotistical billionaire. Heckler embarrasses asterisk Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz at Manhattan book launch as he mulls independent presidential run. Former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz felt the passion of the anti-Trump resistance just moments after he took the stage Monday evening in New York City to promote his new book. Don't help elect Trump, you egotistical billionaire. A protester shouted inside the Barnes & Noble. Go back to Davos with the other billionaire elite who think they know how to run the world. That's not what democracy needs, the heckler yelled before being ejected from the Manhattan bookstore by security. The 65-year-old Seattle billionaire launched a tour Monday to promote his latest book, From the Ground Up, A Journey to Reimagine the Promise of America. After New York, he has stops this week in Tempe, Arizona, Seattle, and San Francisco, but no dates listed for the early voting states of Iowa or New Hampshire. The mood was tense for the rest of his question-and-answer session as the packed audience applauded at times both for Schultz's insistence he could win the presidency if he ran and suggestions that he couldn't. If I decide to run for president as a president, Schultz told his interviewer, I will have the courage and conviction to believe I can win. He added, I'm certainly not going to do anything to put Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Schultz plans to spend the next month traveling around the country, in part promoting a new book, to test whether there's interest in an independent presidential candidate, according to a person familiar with his planning. However, Schultz may not make a final decision on running until the fall, when the direction of the Democratic primary may be somewhat clearer. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg fired a warning shot in Schultz's direction on Monday, saying he shouldn't mount an independent campaign for president because he could prevent the Democratic Party from defeating President Donald Trump in 2020. Third-party White House runs tend to peel votes away from major party candidates, splitting the support from one side in a way that benefits the other. Trump himself suggested he would welcome Schultz in the race as a foil, tweeting that he did not have the guts to run and was not the smartest. Democratic activists have begun to openly suggest boycotting Starbucks, a company in which Schultz maintains significant ownership, until he commits that he won't disrupt the Democrats' chances to unify behind a single anti-Trump challenger. Bloomberg himself toyed with an independent presidential campaign in 2008 and 2016. He is now 76 years old and says he will run in the Democratic primary if he decides to enter the 2020 field. I faced exactly the same decision now facing others who are considering it, he said in a statement Monday. The data was very clear and very consistent. Given the strong pull of partisanship and the realities of the electoral college system, there is no way an independent can win. In 2020, the great likelihood is that an independent would just split the anti-Trump vote and end up re-electing the president. That's a risk I refused to run in 2016, and we can't afford to run it now, he added. We must remain united, and we must not allow any candidate to divide or fracture us. The stakes couldn't be higher. Schultz believes that enough moderate voters from both parties are disenchanted with the status quo to coalesce around a middle-of-the-road candidate like him. I believe that lifelong Democrats and lifelong Republicans are looking for a home, he told Axios on Sunday night, while acknowledging that talk of a vote-splitting campaign is going to create hate, anger, disenfranchisement from friends, from Democrats. The prospect of Schultz, 56, in intentionally playing a spoiler role and helping Trump stay in office isn't sitting well with would-be Starbucks boycotters. Center for American Progress President Neera Tanden tweeted, "Vanity projects that help destroy democracy are disgusting. If he enters the race, I will start a Starbucks boycott because I'm not giving a penny that will end up in the election coffers of a guy who will help Trump win." Her organization mobilized an editor at its Newsy blog, Think Progress, to second the motion. If Howard Schultz gets into the presidential race, @Mavian, @Indivisibly Team, the @DNC, the major unions, and the major presidential campaigns should all use their email lists to promote a Starbucks boycott until he drops out. Ian Millhiser wrote on Twitter. Not everyone is behind the idea. Author and radio host Carol Roth, who writes about business entrepreneurship, criticized would-be boycotters for being willing to impair the livelihood of myriad workers to bully someone out of running for office. Bloomberg has been making the rounds, speaking to Democratic groups about what he sees as an unacceptable danger associated with 4 more years of Trump. The presidency is not an entry-level job, Bloomberg told the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia on Friday. There is just too much at stake. The longer we have a pretend CEO who is recklessly running this country, the worse it's going to be for our economy and for our security. This is really dangerous, he said. Sunday on 60 Minutes, Schultz suggested that his frustration with America's two-party political system has him seriously thinking of running for president as an independent. I will run as a centrist independent outside of the two-party system, he said, speaking in what-if terms. We're living at a most fragile time, Schultz said. Not only the fact that this president is not qualified to be the president, but also the fact that both parties are consistently not doing what's necessary on behalf of the American people and are engaged every single day in revenge politics. President Trump fired off a tweet on Monday seemingly designed to bait Schultz into committing to a presidential campaign. He seized on Schultz's acknowledgement on 60 Minutes that he's not the smartest person in the room and has succeeded by surrounding himself with talented advisors. Howard Schultz doesn't have the guts to run for president. Watched him on At 60 Minutes last night, and I agree with him that he is not the smartest person. Besides, America already has that. Trump bragged. I only hope that Starbucks is still paying me their rent in Trump Tower. Schultz's team has polled on the viability of a third-party run and believes there is an opening, though they have not shared the specifics of their internal surveys. He is being advised by a team with experience in both parties, including Steve Schmidt, who worked on Republican John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign, and former Obama advisor Bill Burton, who joined Schultz at his Monday appearance in New York. Schultz's team also includes Republican pollster Greg Strimple, GOP strategist Brooks Kakvar, and Rajiv Chandrasekaran, a former journalist who has worked closely with Schultz since 2015. He has discussed with his team how much of his own money he's willing to plunge into a campaign, though the person familiar with his planning would not disclose the amount. On paper, Schultz offers a number of qualities that might appeal to voters. He grew up in public housing in New York City's Brooklyn borough and became the first person in his family to graduate from college. He's also been a long-term Democratic donor, contributing to the campaigns of Obama, Hillary Clinton, New York's Chuck Schumer, and Washington's Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell, among others. He has also criticized Trump, telling employees that the president was creating chaos and hurting business, calling Trump's tax cuts for corporations unnecessary and reckless, and vowing to hire 10,000 refugees after Trump issued an executive order banning travel from 7 mostly Muslim nations. But some of his views might clash with the Democratic Party gearing up to unseat Trump. Schultz on Monday criticized proposals for single-payer healthcare and free tuition at public colleges as unrealistic and instead emphasized expanding the economy and curbing entitlements to get the national debt under control. If I ran as a Democrat, I would have to say things in my heart I do not believe, he said of the increasingly popular liberal policies. The Democratic National Committee declined to address Schultz directly. Spokeswoman Xikidlane Ojosa offered only this response: "We are focused on defeating Donald Trump, and anyone who shares that goal should vote for the Democrat nominee in 2020. Count former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro among the Democratic naysayers. He said Sunday on CNN that a Schultz run would provide Donald Trump with his best hope of getting re-elected. Trump's poll numbers in recent months have mostly stayed at or below 42%, he said, regardless of who is cited as his hypothetical Democratic opponent. So his only hope, if things stayed the same, and that's a big if, is essentially to get somebody else, a third party, to siphon off those votes, Castro explained. And I don't think that that would be in the best interest of our country. We need new leadership. And so, I would suggest to Mr. Schultz to truly think about the negative impact that that might make. Patrick McHugh, executive director of the Liberal Priorities USA Super PAC, told the Associated Press that if Schultz entered the race as an independent, we would consider him a target. We would do everything we can to ensure that his candidacy is unsuccessful. The bottom line, said McHugh, is that I don't think Americans are looking for another selfish bill.